Hello. Today we're going to be going over the part 3 of this 4-part series, in which I will be ranking all of the talismans in Elden Ring. And be sure to like the video and subscribe if you want more great content. At 1,000 subscribers, we'll be doing a face reveal. You weren't supposed to see that. Editor, cut that out. And in this video, we'll be going over spots 21 through 40. These are talismans that are pretty decent, but will rarely find a spot on most builds. And so, on with the video. At number 40, we have millisense prosthesis, and yes, that is how you say prosthesis. I just looked it up. This talisman increases your dexterity by 5 and increases the attack power with successive attacks, much like the Rotten Sword insignia. However, unlike the insignia, this will increase your attack by slightly less amounts. I think like 1% for each tier less than the Rotten Sword insignia. However, you do get that dexterity of 5, which probably increases your damage anyways, especially if it's a dexterity weapon. Honestly, that's really it. It has the same benefits as the Rotten Sword insignia, but you get that plus 5 dexterity. So we'll be taking the 40th spot. And at number 39, we have the Godfrey icon. This increases the damage of spells and skills that are charged by 15%. 15% is a solid increase. However, it is only affecting charged spells and skills, so you would have to charge a spell or skill that actually can be charged and then reap this benefit from that. This affects all sorts of spells and skills. However, I just don't think it's like super good, like especially since you're trying to charge it. Like, unless you were already planning on charging it beforehand, I do not think that this will add too much, because usually you want it to be faster, not slower. But you know, this can go into those spots where like maybe you charge it to get that, like to catch your opponent off guard in PvP. When you do hit them with that charge spell, it does a ton of damage. But honestly, I think that this gets more value in PvE, you know, where you fight bosses and whatnot, and then you'll get the most damage out of your charged spells and skills already, and with the Godfrey icon that will be even more so. So I think it will be much more worth it in PvE, very similarly to say the Axe Talisman, but this is by 15% and affects a good variety of spells and skills, which might already be super helpful for the PvP environment. So it's very flexible, but it's not quite as helpful in that PvP environment, if you know what I mean. That'll be taking the 39th spot. And at number 38, we have the Hammer Talisman. This talisman increases the stamina damage against blocking enemies by 20%. The problem with this talisman is that your opponent needs to have a shield for this to work. If we're assuming that all enemies have shields, then maybe this might be one of the best talisman ever, because 20 extra stamina damage will do a significant chunk to their stamina bar and will help you break their guard more easily. However, the truth is not everyone is bringing a shield. If you see someone with a shield, you can just put this on, to be fair, but even then it is just 20% stamina damage, and it's still a case-by-case basis. I don't personally think you'll see too much use of this in the PvE environment, but if you see someone with a shield in PvP, maybe you just slap this on and you have a bit of fun with them. However, this talisman will be taking the 38th spot. And at number 37 and 36, we have the Cerulean Seed Talisman and the Crimson Seed Talisman. Each of these increases the restoration of their respective flask by 20%. Honestly, usually your FP gauge is maxed out and will be increased to the fullest with one blue Estus flask. I don't even remember what you call these now. The Flask of Cerulean Tears. So maybe this one's not quite as helpful as, say, something like the Crimson Seed Talisman. But yeah, these talismans are like, okay, you know. You don't really use these in PvP because healing in PvP is pretty looked down upon. Therefore, in PvE, you will get the most use out of this. You might be able to fully heal yourself with one flask using this talisman, so that could be a great benefit, and it would greatly reduce the amount of flasks you would need for each fight, or just have the most amount of healing available. So these are some solid talismans, and they will be taking the 37th and 36th spot. And at number 35, we have the Red Feathered Branch Sword. When your HP is below 20%, your attack power will increase by 20%. That is a very substantial boost. The problem is the condition. Getting to 20% can be quite difficult and or inconsistent. You can try to intentionally proc this by using the Seppuku Ash of War, or maybe something like Bloody Slash. This is more of a speedrunner's talisman, as staying at less than 20 HP can be quite risky, but rewarding if you're running the Red Feathered Branch Sword. If paired with the Blue Feathered Branch Sword, you may also be able to take another hit, depending on how much health you have left. Honestly, I don't recommend this for general play, but it can be used by speedrunners and is more of a for fun talisman. But hey, it has use, so it'll be taking the 35th spot. And at number 34, we have the Blessed Dew Talisman. In my opinion, this is the best talisman used for sustain. The Blessed Dew Talisman restores 2 health every second, which is incredibly slowly, but it can be quite significant over time, especially at the early parts of the game. I'd only really recommend this for boss battles, as those can last a good bit of time sometimes, or just when you're traveling the world of Elden Ring, as at lower levels the health regeneration can be quite significant, but later on it does seem to fall off quite hard. For reference, it would take about 13 or 14 minutes to fully heal a character with 40 vigor. That is a long time. And seeing that your average duel in Elden Ring lasts like half a minute, this has little to no use in PvP, especially at the higher levels. Overall, it's okay, so it'll be taking the 34th spot. And at numbers 32 and 33, we have Ratagon's Sorceal and Marika's Sorceal, of which each raises 4 stats by 5 and increases the damage taken by 15%. Ratagon's Sorceal increasing the Vigor, Endurance, Strength, and Dexterity by 5, and Marika's Sorceal increasing the Mind, Intelligence, Faith, and Arcane by 5. Ratagon's usually being the better of the two, increasing both Vigor and Endurance, which are pretty necessary stats, as well as Strength and Dexterity, which coincide each other pretty well. Whereas if you took Marika's Sorceal, all you gain is 5 Mind and a mishmash of Intelligence, Faith, and Arcane, which, unless you're planning on using all 3, does not seem all that beneficial, and you'd be better off using one of the talismans that are higher up on this list. However, these stat gains can be pretty beneficial, especially at the early game, considering that they are flat stat boosts. However, you aren't really getting these all that early game, more towards the mid to late game. But you may have the Scar Seals, which are the lesser versions, which give you 3 points in each stat. However, you take 10% more damage. A little bit weaker, but you might be able to find them a bit quicker. However, these talismans drop off quicker than any other talisman, and I swear they seem to become useless by like level 60, though they will be taking the 32nd and 33rd spots. And for numbers 27 through 31, we have the Drake Talismans, each one decreasing the damage taken from a specific type of non-physical damage, except the Pearl Drake Talisman, which is a blanket for all non-physical damage. And I do believe the Pearl Drake to be the most useful, as it shields you against all of it, however at a decreased amount. I see the Pearl Drake Talisman to be rather similar to the Dragon Crest Grey Shield Talisman, however not as much, and I find physical to be more important than non-physical. However, they're not usually bad to have, so they will be going here. And at number 25, we have the Cerulean Amber Medallion. Out of the Amber Medallions, I would consider this to be the worst of the 3. This talisman increases your focus point maximum by 11%. This can help you forego some levels into Mind. However, generally it is not worth using a talisman slot to do so. However, as far as spellcasting builds go, you may not have much of a choice if you wanted to get more focus points for your spells without having to dump a bunch of Mind. The only other talisman that can help with this is the Primal Glintstone Blade, which is not nearly as optimal outside of one-shot builds, because you'll take a massive reduction to your maximum HP. And it can be hard to dump a bunch of points into Mind when you're trying to invest in some sort of spellcasting stat. So it's got its niche, so it'll be taking the 26th spot. And at number 25, we have the Claw Talisman. This increases the damage of jump attacks by 15%. This is a pretty significant boost to a pretty common form of damage. However, personally I do not find jump attacks to be common enough and your main source of damage to run this talisman all the time. However, it is still very solid, and it'll likely help you in any fight. That's really all I have to say about this talisman, so it'll be taking the 25th spot. And at numbers 21 through 24, we have the Scorpion Charms. These increase their respective form of damage by 12%, but increases the amount of damage you take by 10%. And do note that these are nerfed in PvP, where you will deal 8% of the respective damage, but take 15% more damage, which is significantly worse for your PvP bros. And honestly, because of that, I would not recommend these in PvP. However, in PvE, this can help you kill things quicker without too much of a downside. Honestly, that's pretty much it. They're just pretty good, and they cover the 4 elements, so they'll be here.